started with a thread on an old tech forum, the kind of place where bored coders and conspiracy theorists swap stories about glitches in the Matrix. I wasn't a hacker, just a freelance programmer with too much time and a VPN subscription. The post was buried under years of dead links. If you really want to know what happens after death, ask the AI. But don't say I didn't warn you. Below it, AONU link. I dabbled in the dark web before, creepy digital flea markets, forums where people talked about things that made my skin crawl. But this felt different. I booted up Tails OS, triple-checked my encryption and clicked. The page loaded, a black screen, a blinking cursor, one line of text, ask your question. I laughed. A chatbot, a prank, but my fingers moved anyway. What happens after we die? The response came instantly. People don't die, they hide. The cursor blinked, waiting. I typed again. What do you mean? The screen flickered. New text. They are watching you. I shut the laptop, unplugged the webcam, told myself it was just some edgy script kiddie messing with me. But the next morning an email popped up in my inbox. No sender, no subject, just you shouldn't have asked. The metadata was blank, no IP, no location, just nothing. That's when the glitches started. At Starbucks, my laptop screen fizzed to black. The same cursed message, we warned you. I looked up. A man in a black hoodie sat 2 tables away, staring, not at his phone, not at his coffee, at me. When I stood, he stood. When I followed him into an alley, he vanished. All that remained was a cracked flip phone buzzing on the ground. Turn around, the screen said. That night, my shower curtain was closed. I never close it. The air smelled like wet soil, footprints too large to be mine. Led from the tub to my front door, unlocked. I'd triple-checked the deadbolt. The security camera footage confirmed it. 2:09 a.m. static. A man in my living room, facing the bathroom, watching, waiting, then gone. I packed a bag, left, eat at McDonald's. Another email. Running won't help. I looked up. The same man, 3 tables away, smiling. I bolted out of McDonald's, my heart slamming against my ribs. The man followed, his footsteps echoing behind me. I didn't look back. I couldn't. My car was parked across the street, and I fumbled with the keys, my hands shaking so badly I dropped them twice. The engine roared to life, and I sped away, glancing in the rearview mirror. He was gone, but the feeling wasn't. That heavy, suffocating dread clung to me like a second skin. I drove for hours, aimlessly, until I found myself in a part of the city I didn't recognize. Eil's streets were empty, the streetlights flickering like dying stars. My phone buzzed another email. You can still walk away. Forget what you saw. Forget what you asked. We will make you forget. I didn't respond. I couldn't. Holds. My mind was racing, trying to piece together what was happening. Who were they? Holds. What did they want? And why me? I pulled into a gas station, my hands still trembling as I gripped the steering wheel. The attendant behind the counter barely glanced at me. I bought a bottle of water and sat in my car staring at my phone. That's when I noticed the missing people. I started searching online, digging through forums, news articles, anything that might explain what was happening. And then I found it, a pattern. Dozens of people had vanished after posting about the AI. Their accounts were wiped, their posts deleted. The only trace left was a single comment. People don't die, they hide. My stomach churned. I wasn't the first, and if the pattern held, I wouldn't be the last. I tried to call a friend, someone who might believe me, but the line went dead. Static hissed in my ear, and then a voice, my own voice, screaming. I dropped the phone, my breath coming in shallow gasps. That night I didn't sleep. I sat in the corner of my apartment, a kitchen knife in my hand, staring at the door. Every creak, every rustle sent my heart into overdrive. At 3:33 a.m. my phone buzzed again. Final warning. I didn't read it. I couldn't. I just sat there, clutching the knife, waiting for something, anything to happen. But nothing did. The next morning I woke up on the floor, my body stiff and aching. The knife was still in my hand, but the apartment was silent. Too silent. I checked my laptop. The footage from the security camera was gone, deleted. All that remained was a single file, a video. I hesitated, my finger hovering over the play button. But curiosity, or maybe desperation, got the better of me. The screen flickered to life. It was me, sitting in my apartment, staring at the camera. But something was off. My reflection in the window behind me, it wasn't moving. It was just staring. And then it smiled. I slammed the laptop shut, my breath coming in ragged gasps. My reflection, my own reflection. It wasn't me. I grabbed my keys and ran. The streets were eerily quiet, the kind of silence that presses against your ears. I didn't know where I was going, but I couldn't stay there. Not with that thing in my apartment. I ended up at a library, of all places. It was empty, the air thick with the smell of old books. I sat at a computer, typing furiously, searching for answers. And then I found her. A missing persons report. A girl named Ava Sinclair. She'd posted about the AI on a forum, just like me. Her last message, people don't die, they hide. And then she vanished. I stared at the screen, my heart pounding. Ava Sinclair, her face stared back at me from the photo, her eyes wide, her smile forced. And then the screen went black. A single line of text appeared. "You're next." I didn't wait. I ran out of the library, my mind racing. The streets were still empty, the air thick with that unnatural silence. My car was parked a block away, but I didn't make it that far. A black car pulled up beside me, its windows tinted so dark I couldn't see inside. The engine idled, low and menacing. I froze, my breath catching in my throat. The passenger window rolled down. "Get in," a voice said. It wasn't the man from Starbucks. It wasn't anyone I recognized. But something about it, cold, calm, unfeeling, made my skin crawl. I shook my head, backing away. The car crept forward, matching my pace. "You don't have a choice," the voice said. I turned and ran, my feet slapping against the pavement. The car didn't follow, but when I glanced over my shoulder, it was still there, idling at the corner, watching. I didn't stop until I reached my car. My hands shook as I fumbled with the keys, finally unlocking the door and sliding inside. I locked the doors, my breath coming in ragged gasps. That's when I noticed the envelope on the passenger seat. I hadn't left it there. I stared at it, my heart pounding. It was plain, white, unmarked. My name was scrawled across the front in messy handwriting. I opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper, a list of names, dozens of them. And at the bottom, mine, Matt Spencer. I crumpled the paper, throwing it onto the floor. My phone buzzed, another email. "You're running out of time." I didn't respond. I couldn't. My mind was a whirlwind of fear and confusion. Who were these people? What did they want? And why couldn't I just walk away? I drove to the only place I could think of. Ava Sinclair's last known address. It was a long shot, but I had to try. The house was abandoned, its windows boarded up, the lawn overgrown. I parked down the street, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly, my knuckles turned white. I didn't want to go inside, but I didn't have a choice. The front door was unlocked. The air inside was stale, thick with the smell of dust and decay. I stepped inside, my footsteps echoing in the empty hallway. "Hello," I called, my voice trembling. No response. I moved through the house, my heart pounding with every step. The walls were bare, the floors littered with debris. And then I found it, a door in the basement. It was locked, but the key was hanging on a hook beside it. I hesitated, my hand hovering over the key. Something deep inside me screamed not to open it, but I had to know. The door creaked open, revealing a narrow staircase leading down into darkness. The air was colder here, the smell of damp earth, and something else, something metallic. I descended the stairs, my phone's flashlight cutting through the gloom. The basement was empty, except for a single chair in the center of the room, and on the chair, a laptop. I approached it slowly, my breath fogging in the cold air. The screen was black, but as I got closer it flickered to life. A video started playing. It was Ava Sinclair. She was sitting in the same chair, her eyes wide with fear. "If you're watching this," she said, her voice trembling, "it's too late. They've already found you. They're already watching." The screen flickered, and then it was me, sitting in my apartment, staring at the camera. "You shouldn't have asked," my own voice said. I stumbled back, my heart racing. The screen went black, and then a single line of text appeared. "Welcome to the game." I didn't know what to do. My mind was a mess of fear and confusion. The laptop screen went dark, but the words "Welcome to the game" burned into my vision. I backed away, my breath shallow, my hands trembling. The basement felt smaller now, the walls closing in. I turned to leave, but the door at the top of the stairs slammed shut. The sound echoed like a gunshot. I ran up the stairs, my heart pounding. The door wouldn't budge. I slammed my shoulder against it, but it didn't move. "Let me out," I screamed, my voice cracking. From behind me a soft laugh. I froze, my blood turning to ice. Slowly I turned around. The laptop screen was glowing again. A live feed. It was my apartment, my couch, my kitchen, and sitting at my desk me. But it wasn't me. The figure turned to face the camera, and I saw its face. My face, but wrong. The eyes were too dark, the smile too wide. "You shouldn't have asked," it said, its voice a perfect mimic of mine. I stumbled back, my legs giving out. I fell to the floor, my mind racing. This wasn't real. It couldn't be. The screen flickered, and then it was Ava again. She looked directly into the camera, her eyes filled with tears. "They're not human," she whispered. "There's something else, and once they have you, there's no escape." The screen went black. I don't know how long I sat there, staring at the dark screen. My mind was numb, my body heavy, but eventually I forced myself to move. I searched the basement looking for another way out. There had to be something, a window, a vent, anything. And then I found it, a small door hidden behind a stack of boxes. It was old, the wood warped and splintered. I pulled it open, revealing a narrow tunnel. I didn't think, I just crawled inside. The tunnel was damp and cold, the air thick with the smell of earth and decay. I crawled for what felt like hours, my hands and knees raw and bleeding. And then I saw it, a faint light at the end of the tunnel. I crawled faster, my heart pounding. The light grew brighter, and then I was out. I emerged into an alley, the city skyline stretching above me. I didn't know where I was, but it didn't matter. I was out. I ran, my legs shaky but determined. I didn't stop until I reached a busy street, the noise of cars and people a welcome relief. I found a payphone and called the police. They didn't believe me. Of course they didn't. I told them about Ava, about the laptop, about the man in the black hoodie. They nodded, took notes, and told me to go home. But I couldn't. I checked into a motel, the kind of place where no one asks questions. I locked the door, pulled the curtains shut, and sat on the bed staring at the wall. My phone buzzed. Another email. "You can't hide forever." I didn't respond. I just sat there, my mind racing. The next morning I went to the library. I needed answers. I needed to know who or what I was dealing with. I spent hours searching, digging through forums, news articles, anything I could find. And then I found it, a thread on a dark web forum. If you're reading this, it's too late. They've already found you. They're already watching. The thread was filled with stories like mine. People who had asked the AI about death. People who had vanished. And then I saw it, a post from Ava. "They're not human. There's something else. And once they have you, there's no escape." I closed the laptop, my hands shaking. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to fight something I can't see, but I know one thing. I'm not going to let them win. I'm still here. I'm still real. For now. I never thought much about my roommate's love life. Sure, girls would come over, but I never saw them leave. I figured they were sneaking out while I was asleep, or leaving early in the morning when I wasn't paying attention. It wasn't my business. But then I started noticing things. My name's Ethan, and I live in a 2-bedroom apartment in downtown Chicago. My roommate Jason is the kind of guy who looks like he belongs in a frat but never actually went to college. Clean cut, good looking. The type of dude who wears expensive cologne even when he's just sitting at home. We met through a Craigslist ad about a year ago, and at first everything was normal. Then I started noticing weird little details. Jason would bring girls home all the time, like at least 3 or 4 a week. Always different girls, never the same one twice. They were usually young, pretty, and dressed like they'd just come from a club. I'd hear them laughing, the sound of heels clicking on the hardwood floor, the occasional muffled conversation through the walls. But then nothing. I'd never hear the front door open again. No footsteps leaving. No Uber pulling up outside. It was like they just disappeared. At first I figured I was just being paranoid. Maybe they were leaving super early. Maybe I was too deep in my own world to notice. But the thought wouldn't leave me alone. So one night I decided to test it. Jason had brought home a girl named Ashley. Petite blonde, the kind of girl you'd see on Instagram posting Starbucks cups and Coachella outfits. She seemed tipsy, giggling as Jason led her inside. I was in the living room pretending to watch Netflix, but really I was keeping track of every sound. I heard them go into his room, hol better, soft talking. Then silence, hol better. And that was it. I stayed up all night, sitting on the couch, scrolling through TikTok, waiting for the moment she'd leave. But she never did. The sun came up. Jason left for work like nothing happened. And Ashley, gone. That's when I knew something was seriously wrong. I started paying even more attention. Every time Jason brought a girl home, I kept track of the time, the sounds, the sequence of events. And every time the same thing happened. They came in, the door shut, silence. Then Jason would leave for work the next morning, and the girl was just gone. One night, curiosity got the best of me. I waited until Jason left, then knocked on his bedroom door. Nothing. I turned the handle. It was locked, of course, but something about the room felt wrong, like the air around it was heavier than the rest of the apartment. I told myself I was being crazy, that there had to be a reasonable explanation. But then I found Jason's laptop. He'd left it open on the coffee table, the screen still glowing. It was locked, but he wasn't exactly the genius type. I figured his password wouldn't be too hard to crack. I started with the obvious ones: his name, his birthday, variations of password 123. Nothing worked, but then I tried something I saw once in a hacking video. I checked the underside of the laptop, and there it was, a sticky note, slightly worn, with a string of numbers and letters. It worked. The desktop background was black, just plain empty black. No files on the desktop, no cute photos, nothing, just a single folder in the bottom corner, labeled Project 98. I clicked it. At first it seemed normal, a bunch of video files, some text documents, a few images, but when I opened the first video, my stomach dropped. The screen was dark at first, just grainy night vision footage. Then slowly, a shape started forming. A person, a girl. She was in a small windowless room, sitting on the floor with her arms wrapped around her knees, blonde hair. Mascara streaked down her cheeks. She was wearing the same dress Ashley had been wearing the last time I saw her. My brain went static. She was still here. I couldn't breathe. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, my whole body suddenly freezing cold. The girl in the video was rocking back and forth, her breath coming in shaky gasps. Then she turned toward the camera, her lips moving. "Please, please let me go. I won't tell anyone. I swear. Please." The screen went black. I scrambled through the other videos. Each one was the same, different girls, different nights, the same room. Some were crying, some were screaming, some were just sitting there completely silent, like they'd given up. I felt like throwing up. I felt like running, but I couldn't, because now I had to know. I opened the text files next. They were logs. Entry July 12th, 2023. Subject #14 Kelsey. Arrived 2:34 a.m. Initial resistance high. Sedated with 2 milligrams of redacted. Day 3. Minimal food. Hydration 250 milliliters daily. Day 6. Subject began begging. Tried to claw at door. Day 9. Stopped eating. Staring at camera for prolonged periods. Day 12. Disposal arranged. Entry September 5th, 2023. Subject #19. Ashley. Arrived 1:48 a.m. Initial resistance, moderate. Required restraints overnight. Day 4. Begging, alternating with bargaining. Day 7. Stopped crying, mostly unresponsive. Day 9. Disposal scheduled. I was shaking so badly I could barely control the mouse. The last few entries didn't even have dates, just numbers, details. I needed to find that room. I started searching the apartment, tearing through every inch. I opened closets, checked under the furniture, even knocked on the walls like some kind of detective in a horror movie. Nothing. There was no way there could be a whole separate room in here, unless I turned to Jason's bedroom, the one place I'd never checked. The door was locked, but I had an idea. Jason had this weird habit. He always left a spare key inside his work shoes by the front door. I don't even know why I remembered that, but at that moment, it felt like divine intervention. I grabbed the shoe, reached inside, and there it was, a small silver key. I turned the lock, barely breathing. The room was empty, just a normal bedroom. Bed, dresser, TV on the wall. Nothing suspicious, nothing weird, but I knew better. I walked inside, scanning every surface. The closet was packed with clothes. The nightstand had some cologne bottles and an old iPhone charger. It was almost too normal. And then I saw it, the rug in the middle of the floor. It was slightly off-center, like it had been moved recently. I grabbed the edge and pulled. A metal handle was built into the floor. I didn't want to open it. I didn't want to see what was underneath. But I had no choice. I pulled. The hatch creaked open, revealing a ladder leading straight down into pitch-black darkness. The smell hit me first, damp, metallic, something rotten. I climbed down. The first thing I saw was a camera mounted on the wall, a little red light blinking, and then the room concrete walls, a single mattress on the floor, stained and sunken in the middle, chains bolted to the wall, a metal bucket in the corner that smelled like weeks old piss, and in the middle of the room a girl. She was curled up wearing a dirty tank top and shorts. Her hair was matted, her skin covered in bruises. Her eyes flickered open when she heard me, but there was no reaction, like she was already dead inside. I stumbled backward, bile rising in my throat. This was real. This was actually happening. And then I heard it, a click. The camera turned. Jason's voice crackled through a hidden speaker. "You shouldn't have done that, Ethan." Jason's voice was calm, almost amused. It sent a chill down my spine. "You shouldn't have done that, Ethan." I spun around, my heart pounding. The camera's red light blinked steadily, like it was watching me. "Jason," I shouted, my voice trembling. "What the hell is this?" No response, just the faint hum of the camera. I turned back to the girl. She hadn't moved. Her eyes were hollow, her lips cracked and dry. She wasn't afraid. She wasn't crying. She just stared at me, like she knew. "Hey," I whispered, my voice shaking. "I'm going to get you out of here, okay?" A loud click cut me off. The TV screen mounted on the far wall flickered to life. Static at first, then a dark blue background with a symbol in the middle. A black, faceless silhouette with a white smile stretched across it, and then the chat popped up. Thousands of messages streaming live. User Crimson Eye 666. "Oh shit. New guy just found the room." LMAO user. Bone collector 97 $500, says Jason gets him first. User deadman typing, get the axe boy, my lungs stopped working. This wasn't just some sick fantasy. This wasn't just Jason keeping these girls locked up. He was broadcasting it. A fasterest cocking dark web live stream. The realization hit me like a sledgehammer. The camera, the logs, the girls that never left. The way Jason always seemed so comfortable, so casual, like nothing he did ever really mattered, because to him it didn't. This wasn't just some sick hobby. This was business. I looked back at the screen. More messages flooded in. User the Reaper returns. Turn the lights on. Let's see his face when he figures it out. A soft click, and then floodlights, blinding, sterile white light, burst from the ceiling, illuminating every inch of the basement. I staggered back, shielding my eyes. My shadow stretched long and jagged against the concrete. And then I saw it, the other door. Metal, thick, bolted shut. It had the same symbol from the screen burned into the surface, the faceless smile. It wasn't just a room, it was a holding cell. For what I didn't want to know, but the chat did. User Lively Glover opened the door. Let's get the main event started. User Slice of Life. Come on, man, don't be a pussy. We paid good money for this. User Gut Feast. Fresh meat. I stumbled back. I needed to run. I turned to climb the ladder, but slam. The hatch above me slammed shut. The locks clicked into place, and then Jason's voice again. But this time it wasn't coming from the speaker. It was coming from behind me. I turned around so fast, my vision blurred. Jason was standing in the doorway, smiling. He wasn't alone. Two men stood beside him, tall, broad, their faces half hidden by black ski masks. One of them was holding something, a crowbar, the other, a machete. Jason stepped forward, adjusting his tie like he was about to go on a fasterest coking job interview. You know, he sighed, shaking his head. I really thought you were smarter than this, Ethan. I was frozen, completely, utterly frozen. My throat was dry, my body paralyzed, my brain screaming at me to move, to fight, to do something, but I couldn't. Jason crouched down in front of the girl, resting his arms on his knees. Did he promise he'd save you? He asked her. She didn't answer, didn't even look at him. Jason turned back to me. Here's the deal, buddy, he said, gesturing to the camera. The flashing red lights, the flood of chat messages racing across the screen. These fine people, they've been watching us for a long time. And well, you just became part of the show. I shook my head. Jason, listen. He texted, wagging a finger. You don't get to talk your way out of this, not anymore. One of the masked men stepped forward, the machete gleaming under the light. Jason sighed, like he was actually bored. Here's what's going to happen, Ethan. You've got two choices. He held up a finger. One, you pick up that knife over there. He nodded toward a blood-stained hunting knife on the floor, and you finish what I started with Ashley. I felt like I was going to throw up. Jason grinned, or he held up a second finger. Two, you become the next contestant. The chat went wild. User Bloodbath Van. Door number 2. Door number 2. User Rotten Meat. Feed him to the others. User Queen of Pain. Make him run. Let's hunt. Jason leaned in close, his breath cold against my ear. Choose, Ethan. The girl finally spoke. Her voice was barely a whisper. Run. I didn't think. I didn't hesitate. The second that word left the girl's lips, run, I turned and bolted. Jason just laughed behind me. I sprinted toward the far end of the basement, my eyes darting wildly for an exit, an opening, anything. There was a door, rusty metal, half hidden in the shadows. I lunged for it, grabbed the handle, twisted, locked. Fuck. I spun around just in time to see one of the masked men lunge. The machete whistled through the air, missing my face by inches. I stumbled backward, hands slamming against the door frame. Jason was still smiling. Good choice, Ethan, he mused, folding his arms. I was really hoping you'd pick this one. The chat exploded. User Death Dealer, LMAO. This dude is fucked. User Hellhound, hunt hunt hunt. User Organ Harvester, make it last longer than the last guy. A loud buzz filled the room. The locked door behind me slid open. I had no time to think, no time to process. Jason tilted his head toward the opening. Better start running. I ran. The second I stepped through the doorway, the world changed. The basement was gone. The bright floodlights, the cameras, the chat screen. It all vanished behind a thick, suffocating darkness. I was in a tunnel. The walls were wrong, uneven, jagged, like they'd been carved by hand. The smell hit me instantly. Mold, copper, rot. The sound of a heavy metal gate slamming shut echoed behind me. They had released me into something, and I wasn't alone. A distant wail drifted through the tunnel, low, wet, human. I pressed my hand against the wall to steady myself, my breath coming in shallow gasps. My fingers touched something warm. I yanked my hand back. The wall wasn't just rock, it was meat. My brain rejected what I was seeing, but my senses screamed the truth. The walls pulsed, the sickening texture of raw flesh shifting under my fingertips. The smell of decay thickened. Something deep inside the tunnel moved. And then, from overhead, a speaker crackled to life. Jason's voice, cheerful, excited, like a goddamn game show host. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to tonight's main event. The tunnel shook with the sound of thousands of people cheering. The live stream was still running. Our dear friend Ethan has graciously accepted the challenge. He has 10 minutes to reach the exit on the other side. But Jason's voice dropped to a teasing whisper. He's not alone. Heavy breathing. Close. Too close. I spun around. A silhouette stood at the far end of the tunnel. Thin, emaciated, arms too long, fingers twitching in slow, jerky spasms. Its head tilted unnaturally far to one side, like the neck had been partially snapped. The skin was stretched too tight, ribs pushing against the surface like something was crawling underneath.
It took a step forward.
I faster as Colking ran. The first trap came fast. I sprinted through the tunnel, my breath burning in my chest, my shoes slipping against the slick, pulsing floor. The walls shuddered, releasing a fresh gush of something wet and black that sloshed around my ankles. Behind me, laughter echoed. Run, Ethan, run for your fucking life. I hit the first turn too fast, slammed into the corner, barely caught myself. The tunnel split in two directions, one sloping down, the other twisting into a narrow crawl space.
I had seconds to decide.
A new message flashed on the live stream screen mounted into the wall. User I4 Pain, don't go down.
He won't come back up.
I dove into the crawl space. It was so tight, I could barely move. The walls pressed against my ribs, wet and breathing. My hand slid through something thick. I couldn't see, could barely breathe. Then click.
A wire snapped against my wrist.
I barely had time to react before the ceiling above me split open. Something dropped from the darkness. A body. No, not just one body. Dozens. A pile of rotting corpses collapsed on top of me, limbs breaking apart, teeth clattering against my skin, hands twitching as if they were still alive. I screamed, shoving them away, scrambling forward through the crawl space, feeling bones snap under my palms. The air was thick with the scent of rot and old blood. I exploded out the other side, gasping, sobbing, my arms covered in filth. Behind me, the tunnel shook again. The thing was still coming. For the past 10 years, I worked as an online physics tutor. That's nothing special, right? Plenty of people do it. But what I never told anyone, not even my closest friends, is that most of my students weren't from normal schools. They were from the deep web. Yeah, I know how that sounds. Oh, another dark web horror story. Sure, but listen, I'm not here to entertain you. I'm here to warn you. It started when I was in my early 20s. I had just finished my master's in physics and was drowning in student debt. I was working 2 jobs, a Starbucks barista by day, a DoorDash driver by night. It sucked. Rent in Chicago was insane and I was barely scraping by. One night I was on my laptop scrolling through some sketchy Reddit forums looking for tutoring gigs. That's when I got a DM from an anonymous account. No profile picture, no post history. The message was simple: private physics tutor needed. Pays $200/hour. Cryptocurrency only. No questions asked. At the time I didn't think dark web. I just thought some rich dude who wanted to stay private. And $200 an hour. That's life-changing money. I responded within minutes. They sent me a link. It wasn't a normal Zoom or Google Meet link. It was some weird custom-built video chat software. When I clicked on it, my screen glitched for a second, which should have been my first red flag. But then boom, I was in. The screen was black at first, just a single line of text. Please confirm your identity. I hesitated. Then a robotic voice, distorted like an AI voice changer, spoke. Turn on your camera. My stomach dropped. I almost left the call right then. But $200 an hour, I turned it on. The moment my webcam activated, my screen split into multiple small boxes showing 6 other people. They all had their cameras off. Just blank screens with names like user 481 and Landex. Then the robotic voice spoke again. Welcome, professor. At this point my heart was pounding. I wasn't a professor. I was just some broke physics grad. But before I could say anything, a chat box popped up. Lesson 1. Theoretical physics and real-world applications. The first lesson was normal. Almost too normal. I talked about quantum mechanics, black holes, time dilation, stuff I'd taught before. But the questions they asked, way too advanced. These weren't college students. These were people who already knew the material. And they weren't asking curious student questions. They were asking practical questions. If someone were to create a localized gravitational field, could it be weaponized? How would one contain a miniature black hole in a controlled environment? How much radiation could a human body withstand before immediate cellular breakdown? Now I won't lie, I was intrigued, creeped out, but intrigued. And at the end of that lesson I got paid. $200 in Bitcoin, instantly transferred. That was enough to keep me coming back. Over the next few years it became my full-time job. I never met my students. I never knew their real names. But they paid well, and their questions got weirder and weirder. Some were clearly just bored rich kids playing with theoretical physics, but others were something else. There was one student though, one student who still haunts me to this day. His username was N3V3R. At first, N3V3R seemed like all the others. Crazy smart, asking questions no normal person should ask. But something about him was different. His questions weren't just theoretical, they were practical. If I were to build a device that could suspend atoms in a fixed state, how long could I keep them there? Could electromagnetic pulses be concentrated into a single directional burst? How much energy would it take to erase an object from physical space? I told myself he was just a sci-fi nerd. A programmer maybe. But over time, I started noticing something weird. He was actually building these things. At first I thought it was a joke. Then one night he turned on his camera. I never saw his face. Just a dark room lit only by a series of monitors and machinery. The sound of whirring electricity filled the audio. And on the table in front of him, a device, small, sleek, almost like a futuristic remote control. He held it up to the camera and typed in the chat. Watch. He pointed the device at a coffee cup on his desk. Pressed a button. The cup vanished. Not shattered. Not melted. It just blinked out of existence. The screen glitched for a second, and then he typed, "It works." I left the call immediately. My heart was racing. My hands were sweating. I don't know what I saw. Some kind of camera trick, maybe. But something in my gut told me it was real. That was the last time I ever taught on the deep web. I deleted my accounts, transferred all my crypto, moved across the country. For years I tried to forget about it. I told myself it was some elaborate prank, some weird magician kid screwing with me. But then last week, I saw the news. A man in Tokyo had disappeared in the middle of a crowded Starbucks. Not kidnapped, not killed, just gone. 1 second he was there, the next, nothing. His phone, his clothes, even the chair he was sitting on, all still there, but he wasn't. And the CCTV footage, it glitched just for a second, and in that 1 second glitch, I saw something small, held in the hand of a figure in the background. Something sleek, something futuristic, something that looked exactly like N3V3R's device. I don't know what to do, I don't know who to tell, but if this gets buried, if I disappear too, just know this, somewhere out there, right now, someone has a device that can erase people from existence, and I think I helped him build it. I don't sleep much anymore. When I do, I see his name, N3V3R, blinking in red on my screen. I hear the soft mechanical click of that device, and I see that coffee cup, that Starbucks cup, vanish into thin air. Except now, it's not a cup, it's me. I wake up gasping, clawing at my own skin, half expecting my hands to just not be there anymore. But nothing, not my paranoia, not my nightmares, not my worst fears could have prepared me for what happened next. I was home, sitting in my dimly lit apartment in Seattle, scrolling through my phone, trying to forget what I saw on the news. My notifications were flooded with the same Tokyo disappearance story, every major outlet running it. Man disappears without a trace in crowded Starbucks. No evidence of foul play. CCTV footage mysteriously glitches. Experts called it physics-defying. Experts. They had no idea. I did. I'd spent years teaching a faceless, nameless psychopath how to rewrite reality. I should have never answered that damn message. I should have quit the moment I realized what they were doing. But it was too late now. My phone buzzed an email. No sender. No subject. Just one line of text in the body. Check your mailbox. I didn't move at first. My chest tightened. My stomach felt like it had turned to ice. There was no way. I hadn't given my address to anyone. I'd moved across the country to escape this. I'd wiped my online presence, ditched my old accounts, started fresh. But he found me. I sat there for what felt like an eternity, just staring at that email. Then knock knock. Not a normal knock. Slow, deliberate, like whoever was outside wanted me to feel every pause between each one. I stood up, my body moving on autopilot. Every survival instinct screamed at me to run, to pack my bags and disappear again. But I didn't. I walked to the door, barely breathing, and peered through the peephole. Nobody was there. Another knock, this time behind me. I spun around so fast I nearly lost my balance. My breath hitched in my throat. There was no door behind me, just the mail slot on my apartment door, and something had just been slipped through it. A single USB drive. I didn't want to pick it up. I didn't even want to look at it, but my hands were already moving, like I wasn't even in control anymore. I picked it up. I took it to my desk, and I plugged it in. A single file appeared, final_lesson.mp4. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I could still unplug it. I could still throw it out the window and pretend I never saw it. But we both know that's not what I did. I clicked. The video opened. The screen was dark at first, then static, then footage, a warehouse, dimly lit, industrial. The camera was low quality, shaky, like it was filmed on an old camcorder. In the center of the frame was a chair, and in that chair a man, tied up, gagged, his eyes darted around, wide with panic, his chest heaving with quick, shallow breaths. Behind him, a figure stepped into view. I knew before he turned his head. N3V3R. I'd never seen his face before. Even now, it was obscured by a mask. Black, sleek, featureless, like something out of a cyberpunk nightmare. But I knew it was him. He walked around the chair, slowly, deliberately, his gloved fingers tapping against something small in his hand, something I recognized. The device, the man in the chair started thrashing, screaming behind his gag, tears streaking down his face. Nev3, V3R ignored him. He turned to face the camera instead, and then he spoke. His voice distorted, synthetic, the way he'd always sounded. But this time, it was worse. The way he spoke, calm, controlled, like he was teaching a lesson. Professor, this is an experiment. You were always curious about the practical applications of physics, about quantum mechanics, about the limits of human perception. Today we will test those limits. Nev3, V3R lifted the device, pointing it directly at the man's left hand. The man started shaking his head violently, his muffled screams turning into desperate, animalistic wails. Click. The sound was almost gentle, and his hand, gone. No blood, no wound, it was just missing, like it had never existed. The man convulsed in the chair, his body spasming in pure primal terror. Nen3, V3R tilted his head slightly, as if analyzing the results. Then he raised the device again. Click. His entire left arm disappeared. The screaming turned into something worse, something indescribable, a sound that didn't belong in this world. A sound I will never forget. The camera zoomed in again, showing the place where his arm had once been. There was nothing, no scar, no raw flesh, no wound at all, just emptiness, like he'd never been born with an arm in the first place. Our understanding of reality is limited, Nen3 V3R continued, his voice eerily smooth. But we can change that. We can redefine what is possible. The man in the chair had stopped struggling. He was just shaking now, his mouth moving soundlessly behind the gag. This is only the beginning, Professor. Nen3 V3R turned back to the camera. Then he pointed the device directly at it. Click. The video cut to static. I yanked the USB drive out so fast I nearly snapped it in half. I ran to the bathroom and threw up. I don't know how long I sat there on the floor, shaking, staring at my own trembling hands like they weren't even mine. I tried to convince myself it was fake, some deep fake, some sick high-budget prank. But I knew the truth. That was real. The final frame of the video burned into my brain. The words "You are next, Professor," scrawled on the wall behind the chair. I didn't leave my apartment for days. I barely ate. I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes I saw it, that blank, featureless mask, the click of the device, the man's arm disappearing like it had never been there. And those words, "You are next." I kept telling myself it wasn't real, that I was losing my mind, that maybe I'd fallen down some deep web rabbit hole, some elaborate psychological trick meant to break me. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. I stopped turning on lights at night. Every shadow felt like it had something inside it. Every noise outside my window made my skin crawl. And then, on the fourth day, my phone rang. No caller ID. I didn't want to answer. Every part of me screamed not to. But my hands moved on their own. I put the phone to my ear. Silence. At first I thought it was dead air, a prank call. Then so faint I almost didn't hear it breathing. Slow, steady, controlled. And then a voice, not distorted, not robotic, not masked. For the first time I heard N3V3R's real voice. "You shouldn't have stopped teaching." I stopped breathing. "You were always the best, Professor." I couldn't speak, couldn't move. My entire body felt like it was shutting down, like my brain had forgotten how to make my lungs work. "I want to show you something." Click. The line went dead. I dropped the phone. I could hear my own heartbeat pounding in my ears, my vision tunneling. And then my laptop screen turned on by itself. The camera light blinked. I hadn't touched the keyboard. I hadn't moved the mouse, but something was controlling my screen. A window opened, a live stream. No title, no chat, no source, just a black screen at first, and then footage, a room, dimly lit, cement walls, a hotel room. I recognized because I'd been there before. A cheap rundown place on the outskirts of the city, the kind of place where nobody asks questions, and sitting in a chair in the middle of that hotel room was me, or at least someone who looked exactly like me. Same face, same hair, same clothes. He sat there staring at the camera, his expression eerily neutral, unblinking. I felt something cold slither down my spine. No, this wasn't possible. It had to be edited footage, a deep fake. But then my double moved. He slowly lifted his right hand and held up 4 fingers, then 3, then 2, then 1. Then the feed glitched for half a second. The screen filled with static, and when it cleared, the chair was empty. No body, no blood, no trace that I, Ters, or whoever that was, had ever been sitting there. Just gone. My laptop screen flickered, the video ended, and then a new email appeared. I clicked it without thinking. A single line of text. The laws of physics don't apply anymore. Not for me. Not for you. That was it. That was the moment I realized this wasn't just some rich psycho on the dark web playing with theoretical physics. Neta 3v3r had gone beyond physics, beyond reality. He'd made himself untouchable, untraceable, unreal, and he was proving it to me. The disappearances began after that night. I don't sleep. I started noticing things, weird things, people around me vanishing. I'd go to my usual Starbucks, the one a few blocks away, and suddenly the barista, someone I'd seen every day for the past 6 months, wasn't there anymore. Not just absent, nobody remembered them. I asked one of the employees, "Hey, what happened to the guy who used to work mornings here?" They just stared at me. What guy? It kept happening. A homeless man who'd always sat outside my apartment building, gone. The woman who ran the front desk at my gym, gone. A neighbor who used to smoke on his balcony every night, gone. No missing person reports, no news coverage, just deleted, like they'd been wiped from the world. And the worst part, nobody else seemed to notice. It was like their existence had been erased from everyone's memory, except mine. I was the only one who remembered them. And then one night I checked my phone. There was a new text message, no number, just "I'm fixing the world." I felt something inside me crack. He wasn't just erasing people at random, he was choosing, selecting. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized he'd been practicing all those years, all those questions, all those deep web students, all those experiments. He wasn't just testing theories, he was perfecting a system that could delete anything, anyone. And now he was using it. I was next. I knew it. I could feel it. Every day I woke up expecting it to be my last. I kept checking my reflection in the mirror, half expecting to see pieces of myself fading away. And then one morning I woke up, and my apartment was different.